This is a CBC podcast.
Hello, I'm Marcus Schwabe. This is the Morning North podcast for the week of November the 22nd, 2021. This is a weekly podcast featuring some of the stories that were broadcast on Morning North, our weekday morning program in northeastern Ontario. We cover current affairs weekdays from 6 to 8:30, so a little bit of politics, plenty on COVID-19, or at least that's been the story during this pandemic. I've got a little bit of an environmental story for you. An entrepreneur who's come up with some biodegradable shoes. You're going to hear about that a little later in the podcast. We're going to start with some sad news, though. This past weekend, Senator Josée Forêt-Niessing of Sudbury has died. Yes, we knew the senator was ill. We knew that she had COVID-19, but we'd also received news late last week that the hospital had released her. She had spent more than a month in the hospital with COVID-19. She was double vaccinated, but she suffered an autoimmune disease that left her susceptible to the virus. Senator Niessing was 56, and there was a lot of reaction to her death. Here's longtime friend, Nickel Belt MP Marc Serré.
Well, this is a heartbreaking news, a tragic passing of Senator Josée Forêt, a colleague and a friend. Josée has always been there to help people out, to be compassionate, kind. She's a very caring person, and always has a smile, always helping people out. She's been involved in the community, organizations all over Northern Ontario and Greater Sudbury. She's passionate also on the for Friends Services, supporting our culture, our language, and our rights, like her father did, Norm Forêt, in the past. So our hearts go out to her husband, Robert, and also her two children, Philippe and Véronique.
That's Nickel Belt Member of Parliament, Marc Serré. CBC reporter Angela Gemmell had a chance to speak with former Sudbury MP Paul Lefebvre on Saturday. He knew Josée Forêt-Niessing for more than 15 years.
Well, certainly a lot of shock in the sense that a few days ago she had come out of the hospital and we were very excited. We're so happy to hear the good news. But unfortunately, we just heard this morning that she succumbed to COVID-19. So, no, certainly it's a really tough day. I knew Josée as a lawyer. And back in the days, she was very involved in the community. Certainly she chaired many boards and always a very big participant in the community. We're really proud of Sudbury, the proud Sudburian, and she then became a senator. So I got the chance to work with her there, meet with her there, and she was obviously had her ideas of projects she wanted to move forward. And so it's much too early. She's still very young and still had so much to give, so many ideas, so much passion. So it's devastating because we have an individual like that cares deeply, is passionate, and that goes away way too soon. It's tough to take.
Senator Forêt-Niessing was involved in, as you said, a lot. She obviously was a senator, a lawyer. She was involved with the University of Sudbury, great involvement with the Francophone community. What would you say was her biggest impact?
Oh, certainly, when she was as a lawyer and at the, we call the AGFO, so the Association of Francophone Lawyers of Ontario, just advocating to have the rights of Francophones to be able to have proceedings in court, be able to do it in French. She was passionate about that, and she brought that at the national level as a senator. And so I think she was very passionate about that and minority rights. And again, just as Sudburian, she believed in Sudbury, and she was just a very positive person who wanted to carry that and to help out all the people that needed help. She truly believed in that. So it's a big loss for our community, and I certainly believe that it's a big loss for Canada because we had just started to get the Canadians had just started to get to know her in that role, and it was still very early on.
Any memories you want to share with us, Paul?
Oh my God, there's many. certainly maybe seeing her, a fellow Sudbury francophone in the House of Commons, and before this was the old House of Commons, which is under renovation, and walking down the corridor and seeing me and just waving to each other, right? Just proud that she was there, and I'm sure that she was proud that I was there. So it was just a very, just a really strong friendship and collegiality, I would say. And so, and that for me, her smile will always be etched in my memory for sure. She was just starting as a senator. She was only 56. She had 20 more years to give. It's just too bad because she was just, she came in 2018, and then there was an election a year later, and then COVID hit in 2020. So she had not had a full chance, I believe, to really for people to get to know what a great person she was.
Former Sudbury Member of Parliament Paul Lefebvre speaking with CBC reporter Angela Gemmell. All right, we are going to move on to other story out of Ottawa this week. Not the Senate, but the House of Commons. First order of business as the House resumed for the first time after the federal election was to elect the Speaker of the House. And the Member of Parliament for Nipissing-Temiskaming, Anthony Rota, won the election as his fellow MPs voted him to take the Speaker's chair for the second time in a row. And we had Anthony Rota on the radio this week. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. It is really an honor to be chosen the first time. The second time is I'm over the moon. It is. I'm thrilled.
How different was this race compared to the last race for Speaker?
Well, I mean, like anything else, when you're coming in fresh, people aren't sure what to expect. So it really is something that you try to convince people what you've done or what you're capable of. The second time around, they're judging what you've done. So they're looking at your performance over the last few years. And the questions they have are a little bit more pointed on things that you have made decisions on. And I'm honored that they picked me a second time. It's not something that happens often.
And why did you want the job the second time in a row, considering you had to navigate through this pandemic?
It was certainly an interesting time because when I signed up, what the Speaker does is basically, there's 3 points. There's a diplomatic end where you meet with dignitaries from other countries and ambassadors, so that's the diplomatic end. There's what people see in the House. It's making sure that the quorum is kept and we have some semblance of debate that is civilized. And the other one is maintaining the finances on the Board of Internal Economy and making sure that the Parliament works well. It's a challenge that I enjoyed, and it was a little different this time around with the pandemic. I'm hoping to lead us out of the pandemic and get back to more of a sense of normalcy, whatever the new normal is after COVID-19.
Mind you, as we heard, it sounds like most of the parties would prefer to see this hybrid model continue. As Speaker, do you have an opinion one way or the other?
There are talks going on amongst the parties right now on how that can be done, and it is something that is an option for having some members being able to stay away from the House and still participate. But again, the decision is going to have to be made by basically the House leaders who negotiate that out. And once they've made the decision, it comes to the Board of Internal Economy, and we kind of discuss it and then go on from there. So whatever they decide, I'll be more than happy to implement.
All right. I want to ask you about the clerk in the House of Commons, Charles Robert, who has the job as advisor to you, the Speaker. CBC has reported allegations that he's acted in a partisan way, supporting the Liberal government as opposed to being nonpartisan. Is that something you've actually witnessed as Speaker?
I can't say that I've witnessed that. No, he has been very frank and very honest with everyone in the chamber, and. Again, allegations are things that I really don't need to comment on. I mean, it's if there's anything out there, well, let's bring it out and take care of it, and it gets taken care of at the Board of Internal Economy. But I guess as we get back, the board will decide how they want to deal with it, and we'll see what happens then.
So if there are complaints from staff members, are they investigated at all? Is that something that you, as Speaker, would have to launch?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. These are all personnel issues that get taken care of. But like most companies, and CBC has the same protocol, is personnel issues are not something you discuss in public because it is a personal matter. So it's confidential, and that's the way these issues are taken care of.
Anything on your agenda for this session of Parliament?
I just want to see it run smoothly and hope that the members cooperate. I mean, when we look at what's coming up today is the throne speech. That'll set the agenda on what the government wants, and I'm hoping to see cooperation amongst the parties. We've already seen a little bit of a cooperation with between some parties and some friction amongst others. But overall, I think that what we've seen in this election is that people have sent MPs back in a minority government saying, look, let's make this work. And there seems to be a real willingness to do that.
This is our report from Ottawa, where we check in with MPs about what's happening in their ridings as well. Anything happening in Timiskaming, Nipissing-Timiskaming that you want to share?
Well, you know what? We've had a number of funding announcements and funding that's starting to come back. Some of it got disrupted by the election. But now it's just a matter of getting back and making sure that everything runs smoothly. Now that FedNor is an agency, I'm looking forward to working with industry and making sure that the economy picks up. And one of the big issues we're having is employment, not so much on the lack of employment, but the lack of employees. And what we're trying to do is attract people to Northern Ontario, to Nipissing-Timiskaming, and we've got a few immigration programs that I want to see pick up. And we're seeing people coming from big cities like Toronto and Ottawa to Nipissing-Timiskaming, North Bay, New Liskeard, and all the communities in between because of the lifestyle and the ability to work remotely with technology. And I think that's one of the things that the COVID-19 pandemic has taught us, is that we don't have to live in downtown Toronto or downtown Ottawa to do our jobs. We can do it from anywhere, and why not do it from a beautiful place like North Bay or Timiskaming Shores? Mind you,
the Speaker has to be in Ottawa, doesn't he?
Yes. During the pandemic, unfortunately, I had to be here, unfortunately. But yes, the Speaker does have to be in Ottawa.
All right. Well, Anthony Rota, hope you have a smooth session of Parliament. Really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Marcus. It's always a pleasure.
Anthony Rota, Liberal Member of Parliament for Nipissing-Timiskaming and the Speaker of the House of Commons. All right, let's move on to other stories that were making news in Northern Ontario this week, and one had to do with the situation at Constance Lake First Nation. Public health investigators went to the community looking for the source of a fungus that's making people seriously ill. Several people there diagnosed with blastomycosis. Dozens of people, in fact, are being suspected of having this. There were 3 people who died since last Friday, and the disease is being considered as a death. It's not confirmed yet. Blastomycosis is caused by spores from a fungus that grows in decaying wood. When people breathe in the spores, it starts to grow in their lungs, and it can take months for it to show up, and then you get pneumonia-like symptoms. It can be treated with antifungal drugs if it's diagnosed. Now, the chief of the Constance Lake First Nation up near Hearst, Ramona Sutherland, she's been updating the community by Facebook Live. Here's what she said early in the week.
There are people in the community that are doing this sampling and testing, and please don't forget that it'll take maybe 4 or 5 days for the results to come back. I think we have at least 11 different places that they can take samples from in the community, including Liqueurs, the sawdust pile, the pile of logs that are meant for wood stoves, they'll check that, as well as take samples from Wellmont Lake, as well as Constance Lake, and some of the homes. I know some people are talking about their basements, so if you have those concerns, please forward your name. Okay, so I just want to keep encouraging people to go get checked out. If you have a cough, difficulty breathing, you feel fatigue, you have a sore back there beside your lungs, if you have a fever, chills, please go in and get yourself checked out. Please. It doesn't take it won't take that long, I hope not. Just please go and get yourself checked out. Please. So, Misoe, Akuzimajuyan, Bitigan Nete Akuzimaguk, Tiganamaguyan. What happens, Madeline's asking, what happens if no source is found in the spots tested? Then we can suggest more spots. We'll have to find it. The source is there somewhere in the community. There's too many people getting sick from this, so it's got to be in our reserve somewhere, in our community somewhere, or maybe all these people, we should find out if they're all interconnected. Maybe they all did something at some point. Maybe they went somewhere. We will find it. I'm confident that a lot of people are very interested in stopping this. We are not going to evacuate right now, but but we are planning for evacuation in the event that we need to evacuate. So that way we're not reacting to anything, we are being proactive. So we are looking at evacuation plans, and we hope we don't have to evacuate. We're hoping that we can find the source of this blastomycosis. In the meantime, we'll have the testing happening, nurses, counselors, and stay away. Encourage your children to stay away from the sawdust pile.
That is the chief of the Constance Lake First Nation, Ramona Sutherland, taking questions from the community during a Facebook Live last night. There's one family waiting to hear whether blastomycosis claimed the life of their son and partner. 43-year-old Luke Moore died Friday after suffering what appeared to be pneumonia, but his father Arthur and mother Elizabeth now expect it was blastomycosis. They're awaiting results of an autopsy scheduled for this morning. CBC reporter Kate Rutherford reached them and Luke's partner Joanne at their home in Constance Lake.
What's going on in this community is very alarming, and it's a mystery as well. And our son is being looked at by autopsy.
Our son Luke was the very first to pass away, and Luke went into the hospital on November 11th with pneumonia. He was given antibiotics for pneumonia, but it didn't clear up. He went back to the hospital on November 17th, and on the 19th he passed away.
Why do you suspect now that it's blastomycosis?
That's what the doctors and all the medical team, they suspected that's what it was towards the end. The test results were out, but it didn't come in yet, so it wasn't confirmed.
So tell me a little bit about what he was experiencing. What was he telling you about how he felt?
He was tired a lot. At that time, though, we thought it was just pneumonia. It was pneumonia symptoms, so that's what we thought it was, and we had no idea about this blastomycosis until the last 2 days of his life.
So with Luke, when he was in the hospital on the 17th, they said he was sent home with medication for pneumonia, and he finished his medication. And then he returned to the Hearst Hospital.
Yeah, I called 911 for a wellness check on him because I didn't like his color. So they came and checked, and his oxygen level was low. So he got sent directly to the hospital in Hearst. Yeah.
What happened next then is they said that he had 2 lungs filled with pneumonia. And so then they gave him intravenous that night, so he slept that night with the highest dose of a medication. But then when he was up the next day, he was not any better.
Yeah, he was. They put him in isolation, so I wasn't able to be in the room for him for a while until he was intubated. Then they called me back, and I went back to go see him and stayed with him for the rest of the night.
It was a surprise also for Joanne when she returned to the hospital to see Luke with that the tube, and he was in induced coma. And my husband works for Nuclear Waste Management, and he told Joanne, he says, tell the doctors about, what is it called, Arthur?
Blastomycosis.
Blastomycosis.
Yeah, I informed Joanne to tell the doctors that it possibly be blastomycosis because I came across the same kind of situation with my work in northwestern Ontario. So I speculated that it could be blastomycosis. And we told our daughter-in-law to let the doctor know to investigate if it's that lung disease.
I called the nurse station right away and let them know about this, and they said they would look into it and let the doctor know. Then when I went back to go see him, he was already intubated, and that's when they brought up the word blastomycosis.
And of course, the treatment for blastomycosis is different than that for pneumonia.
That's right. That's right. And the thing, go ahead.
And they started the medication for blastomycosis not long after that.
Okay, they started giving him an antifungal?
Yes, but he was already sedated and all that.
Too late.
I think it was too late because he died the next morning.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
They called in Orange Air. They tried to land, but they said that what they told us is that the weather is not good. And so then they said they would be back at 6:30. Yeah, 6:30 a.m. At 6:30, the Hearst had not plowed the airport, the runway. And so they said, okay, we will return at 10:30. Mm-hmm. My son passed away at 9:30.
But with the Orange, the day before, they were supposed to arrive at 7 p.m. the day before. But because of the weather, they didn't arrive, so they kept pushing the time. They said, we'll check again at 11, then it went to 12, then it went to 6:30 in the morning, then it went to 10, and it just kept getting pushed and pushed and pushed. So it was too late.
I guess we don't know if anything could have been done at another hospital.
He needed in Sudbury ICU to make him better. They had more equipment there to help him. That's what they told me, and they needed him there right away. But it wasn't done.
So when I spoke with the doctor, she did mention that the Hearst Hospital and the provincial government and federal agencies will investigate because of the slow response of Orange, and they will investigate that.
My son is 43 years old, and he's very healthy, and he works at LeCoeur Lumber. He's very strong, lots of muscles. He lives a healthy life, and he has beautiful grandchildren here in this home that are asking about Grandpa, but we are telling them that Grandpa's in heaven. As I sit here, my daughter-in-law sits next to me, and she will be without a partner. And I know my son Luke, he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her.
The Moore family, Arthur, Elizabeth, and Joanne. Speaking to reporter Kate Rutherford, we've followed the story all this week, and the latest numbers as I record this podcast, 13 people with probable cases of blastomycosis, 44 people under investigation for it. And speaking to reporters this week, the province's chief medical officer, Dr. Kieran Moore, called the outbreak quite concerning, and it said it might be as a result of climate change. He says the province has brought in multiple resources to support the community, from the healthcare system at the hospital in Hearst to enhancing access to infectious disease experts and ensuring that appropriate screening, testing, and treatment are offered. All right, we're going to move on to a technology story, you might say, and an environmental story. We've heard a lot in recent years about the importance of reducing plastics from our lives, and you might even be trying to do that, not using plastic straws anymore. But they're around us, and they're on us. Like your feet, your footwear likely contains plastic. But there's an entrepreneur who's from Sudbury originally. He's trying to change that. His name's Luke Houle. He grew up in Hanmer but lives in Toronto. And he's developed a pair of shoes that are fully biodegradable. I spoke to him earlier about it. Where did this idea come from, Luke?
Yeah, so I had been working in footwear for about 12 years now. And I started off in sales. So I would see the companies I was working for, and we'd sell, hundreds of thousands of pairs each year. But it wasn't until I got to the development side where I started realizing what these shoes are made of. And, the majority of outsoles, or like the bottom of the shoe, are made of plastic. And we call them fancy names like TPU, TPR, EVA, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just plastic. And it's going to sit in the landfill for about 1,000 years. So I was looking towards industry trends to see if we could kind of start adopting new things to offset that impact. But the industry wasn't really changing fast enough. So about 3 years ago, I started on this project. And now today, I'm happy to say that we have a fully biodegradable shoe that also grows into a tree.
All right. Explain. What are your shoes made out of?
So the compound that we've developed is proprietary, and it's essentially the way that it works is it feels just like your regular sneaker. It acts the same way, but once it's you plant it underground, there's a little chemical that activates, and it starts telling microbes around it, hey, this is a good place to come eat. And so they'll come in and they'll start feasting. And the more microbes that come in, they go through a process called quorum sensing, and they'll attract even more microbes. And then it rapidly decomposes the sole so that within about 3 years, within 3 years, it'll be fully biodegraded. But about halfway through that process, a tree seed is released, and it's encased in some fertilizer, and then that'll grow up into an apple tree.
So you've got seeds in the sneakers, or one seed?
Yes, yeah. So there's a seed in each shoe, and we chose apple seeds because it's kind of a nod to John Chapman, who went all around North America planting apple trees. So we decided it was only fitting if we called it, Johnny, for Johnny Appleseed.
And what does the shoe look like?
So it's pretty, it's pretty standard as far as shoes go. We have two models. We have black and white, and they're standard canvas uppers. They've got a really decent amount of cushioning for the sole. But I wanted something that was versatile enough that you could wear it with any outfit. And I find that's been one of the biggest challenges when it comes to eco-friendly companies. Is a lot of times they come out with something that might look a little bit more hempy or organic, or it kind of has that look. And I wanted to have something that was just clean that you could wear with sneakers or dress pants, and it was good to go.
But the materials have to all be biodegradable. You're using more than just one material here, right? This other than this proprietary sole.
I am, yeah. So the uppers are made of organic cotton, and they're coated in beeswax so that they're water resistant. And then the eyelets and all of the stitching is all made of organic cotton as well. And then when it comes to the insole, that's made of cork, which molds to your foot over time and becomes more comfortable, but it's also biodegradable. And then the midsole is our proprietary compound, and the outsole, the bottom portion, to make sure you get more traction, we made that out of latex rubber, which also biodegrades.
How durable are these shoes?
That's a good question. And a lot of people, when they hear, hey, it rapidly biodegrades in the ground, they think, man, this is only going to last me 6 months or something. It'll fall apart on my feet. But that's not true. It only starts biodegrading once you plant it underground. So it'll last you as long as your normal sneakers, if not even a little longer.
What if your feet have excessive perspiration? Is there any risk, of some of that decomposition taking place on while you're running or anything?
No, that's a good question. Don't worry, you can go running in them for a marathon. Don't do it though, but you can if you want to. No, it's sweat won't affect it at all. It needs to be underground because it needs that constant environment of being around microbes that just occur in nature. But those aren't going to happen. Like, that's not going to happen in your closet or anything like that.
All right. Have you done extensive testing? Have you actually seen, because, I've seen some of these corn-based cups and that sort of thing, and I think as if that's going to biodegrade in a couple of years. Maybe they do. I don't know. But have you done the testing? Will they actually biodegrade?
Yeah, for sure. We've done the testing. Everything's good on that end. We've been working on the compound, engineers who are very, very well versed in that space, and they've sent out everything to third-party labs to make sure that it's not even our own bias tests or anything like that.
And will the seed actually germinate, the apple seed that you've got in there?
Yeah, that's a good question. And this is something that I'm trying to make people aware of is sometimes in nature, seeds just don't germinate, and there's nothing we can do about that, right? But what we are saying is if your shoes don't grow into a tree, let us know. We'll send you a bunch of seeds just to make sure you still get your apple tree. But also what we're doing on our end is we're planting a tree on behalf of anybody who buys a pair of shoes. Because some people don't have access to a backyard to go plant their trees, right? You might live in a condo or an apartment, and in that case, you're just throwing them away into the landfill, which is still totally okay because they're going to biodegrade out there. They just won't grow into a tree. So for us, it was important that we offset your carbon footprint as well.
How much do these shoes cost?
So Johnny's shoes are on Kickstarter right now for $109 with free shipping included. And as you keep increasing the amount of pairs that you want to commit to, the price goes down.
And when will they be ready?
That's a good question. So right now you can commit to a pair right now. The Kickstarter is still active for 2 or 3 more days. And we're looking at production throughout the year, and we're going to be delivering in August 2022.
Are you going to make a fortune, Luke? Is Nike knocking on your door saying, hey, we want to buy you out, and are you going to become a multimillionaire here?
Oh, geez, I don't know about that. But what I can say, there's been a lot of interest from a lot of people, which has been phenomenal to see that so many people are connecting with the idea. But to me, what's more important is making a change in the industry, right? Because individually, you and I, we can reduce, reuse, recycle, and that's good, and we should keep doing that. But we're only really going to start changing the world once the industries start changing their practices and start being more mindful. So that's really what I'm hoping to do with this.
All right. Well, all the best with it. Really appreciate you telling us about it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you for the time.
Luke Houle, the founder of Johnny Footwear, originally from Sudbury, but living in Toronto these days. All right. One more story for you, and it has to do with this movie.
Every story has a beginning. Discover the origin of evil.
That is part of the trailer of Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City. It's a reboot of the Resident Evil series based on the popular horror video games, and much of it was filmed in Sudbury. Now, Scott Tom is a carpenter, construction coordinator based in Sudbury. He works on movies, including this one, and we talked to him the day that Resident Evil was being released in theaters. Are you excited to see this film?
I am, actually. I'm not specifically a zombie movie fan, but it just seems splashy at the same time as being from where I'm from. And I think it's going to be pretty cool to see.
Absolutely. And you constructed what for this movie?
I ran a local team which built and assembled sets, backdrop sets. So some of your listeners may remember about a year ago there was a bit of a construction project in the parking lot next to the old Elgin Hotel, which looked a little out of place and sat there for a couple of weeks. So that was the entrance to the police station for the franchise. That was essentially built and painted in Southern Ontario by another construction team, and then my local team put it together. And as well, we had some other sets that weren't as public.
All right. And it is, like you say, zombie film, so there's a lot of destruction. Does the stuff you make end up getting destroyed?
Not so much. A lot of times what you see as destruction is really just artful placement of flame bars and, you know, other special effects things. We're not really that happy to set fire to things randomly.
Right.
So special effects has some great tricks for making your eyes believe that something has happened.
Especially if you've got to do more than one take, right? Like you can't wreck everything.
Well, that's the issue that we have to control. I'm not saying it doesn't happen that things don't get blown up, but we try and control it. We did get to build a set in the NOFS studio and shoot it as an entire piece. And then had the fun of artfully and under direction tearing it apart to make it look like a helicopter crashed into it. That was the library set for fans of the franchise. And that was really fun.
Huh. So what should people be looking for when they watch Resident Evil?
You mean in Sudbury?
Yeah.
Sudbury landmarks, etc. I don't agree that they should be looking for Sudbury at all. I think it's going to happen anyway. But we did shoot downtown. Most of the other stuff was a little out of sight. We shot in a woodlot, sort of at the west end of Lorne Street, but it was back in the Red Pines, and it looked really great for our scenes. But it's fairly ubiquitous for Northern Ontario.
Right.
And then we shot some roads for traveling, which once again, just to a northerner would just look ubiquitous.
All right. This is the biggest movie ever filmed in Northern Ontario, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. For overall budget, for sure.
Talk about that, the scale of this production.
Well, the scale is... the entire budget wasn't spent up here. There was also shooting down in Toronto for some of the interiors. But I'm going to say that while it was happening, it employed about 80% of our film technicians in Northern Ontario. And also, at times, friends and family as well. I mean, searching for crew members to fill out daily calls sometimes meant going through your phone list and asking people if they were doing anything next Tuesday.
I know the stars, the director comes from down south, and the stars are from lots of Americans. But did you get a chance to meet them? Any sense of what they thought of working up in Sudbury?
My contact with the actors is minimal because we build the sets, then we go away, then they shoot them, then we come back and tear them out. But from all reports, they were really pleased with the professionalism of the local crews. It was pretty tough shooting because the entire story happens in the middle of a sort of a gloomy, cold, rainy night. So they shot nights for the entire time they were up here because we did a lot of exteriors. So the shooting schedule, they started work at 5 o'clock every afternoon, shot through the night and if it wasn't raining, they brought in the fire hoses and wet everything down. It was definitely usually fairly cool. And so for the actors to be comfortable from the beginning and end of that process really speaks to how well the production was put together.
What's it like for you to watch one of these films that comes out and you know that you've had a part of it?
Oh, it's so much more fun to watch someone else's movies that I don't know anything about because then I can just follow the storyline. And it's awful to have read the script and then try and watch it. I try and I get bogged down in knowing what the next episode is going to show me. So it's honestly, it wrecks it a little bit, to be honest. I feel proud because I want to see how well the stuff we planned came out. And that's really important. But it's more of a professional enjoyment than actually enjoying
the movie. How big a deal is this movie to the film industry, do you think?
Oh, I think it was wonderful because we've been developing as a group for about really intensely for the last 5 or 6 years, and at a slower pace before that. And this is really, I wouldn't call it a culmination, but it's certainly a large step up a set of stairs for us as a group, showing that we can work at that scale comfortably. And that's how it felt during the entire project. I felt completely comfortable with all of the people around. And a lot of the people who are key members of departments are local Northern Ontario technicians. And the experience that we've built up in the last 5 to 10 years really, really showed up last November. And it was a wonderful and proud moment.
Well, I hope you enjoy the film. I really appreciate you telling us about it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Marcus.
That is Scott Tom. Worked on the movie Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, which is in movie theaters now. I think I'll wait until it's streamed before I see it, just because I don't think I want to pay $10 or $15 to see that particular film. I'll just wait till it becomes part of my subscription to whatever it is, Apple TV or Netflix, or I guess it's not a Disney Plus movie. Anyway, that's going to do it for the podcast for this week. Your entertainment, hopefully, and information about Northern Ontario the past 7 days. We put out the podcast weekly, and you can listen to us live if you get the chance, weekdays from 6 to 8:30 on CBC Radio 1 in Northeastern Ontario. Of course, you can use the CBC Listen app as well and listen anytime in real time. There are a lot of stories to choose from this week, so it was sort of hard. Go to our website if you want to find out more about what's been happening in the North. Our website address is cbc.ca/Sudbury. I'm Marcus Schwabe. Thanks again for tuning in, and I hope to talk to you again real soon. Take care.
For more CBC podcasts, go to cbc.ca/podcasts.